The evening sky was painted in fading shades of orange and violet, the kind of sunset that made the trees in the neighborhood look like silhouettes against the fiery canvas. I sat on the creaky wooden bench near my front gate, my hands resting on the worn leather backpack beside me. It was Amir's, my only son, and yet tonight it felt heavier than ever. Not just with his books and clothes, but with the weight of my anxiety, my worry, my motherly instinct screaming that something was not right. I had been waiting for hours. Amir had promised to be home by 6, and yet the streets were empty, the sun dipping lower, shadows stretching like silent, accusing fingers. My phone had been ringing incessantly, only to go straight to voicemail every single time. My heart thumped harder with every unanswered ring, each beat echoing like a drum in the quiet street. Neighbors passed by, some offering polite smiles, others shooting curious glances. I knew they wondered why a woman sat here so late, clutching a bag as if it held her very soul. I forced the weak smile at Mrs. Khan, my elderly neighbor, but it fell flat, unconvincing even to me. Time crept on, each minute stretching painfully. I tried to recall the last time Amir had been late like this. There had been delays before, of course, traffic, extra classes, errands, but never this long without a call, without any word. My mind began to spiral into the worst possibilities. And then I saw him. A man walking briskly down the street, carrying a bag that looked eerily like Amir's. Relief surged, but then confusion and unease swept in. He was not Amir. My breath caught and my pulse quickened. "Excuse me," I called, my voice trembling yet trying to sound firm. "That bag, it belongs to my son." He paused, his eyes meeting mine. He smiled politely, a calmness in his expression that did nothing to reassure me. "I'm delivering it for him," he said smoothly. "He asked me to bring it here. I hope that's all right." Something about his tone triggered a shiver down my spine. Why would Amir send a stranger? Why wouldn't he call? The questions spun in my mind, each one louder than the last. I reached out hesitantly to take the bag. Our fingers brushed briefly, and I felt an odd mixture of relief and alarm. The leather smelled faintly of his cologne, familiar yet strange coming from someone else. "Are you sure he sent you?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "Yes, ma'am," he replied smoothly, his eyes avoiding mine. "He said it was urgent. He couldn't come himself, so he asked me to deliver it." I wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to, but my motherly intuition screamed that something wasn't right. I opened the bag slightly, just enough to peek inside. Amir's notebooks, a water bottle, and a few of his personal items were there. Everything seemed normal, yet the timing, the delivery, it didn't sit right with me. I stepped inside, bringing the bag to the kitchen counter. My hands shook slightly as I tried calling Amir once more. This time, the phone rang, but again went straight to voicemail. My anxiety spiked. The man, sensing my tension, stood quietly by the door. "Shall I leave it here?" he asked politely. I nodded, unsure if I wanted him to leave or stay. He left, and I leaned against the counter, trying to calm my racing thoughts. Something about all of this didn't feel ordinary. As I set the bag down, my eyes caught a small envelope tucked between Amir's notebooks. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Mom, don't worry. I had to take care of something important. Someone will bring my things. I'll call you soon. Amir." Relief washed over me in waves, but only briefly. The note explained nothing about why he had to send a stranger. Why so secretive? Why now, so late in the evening? I glanced around the kitchen, the shadows growing long as the evening wore on. There was an uneasy stillness in the house. Every creak, every whisper of wind against the windows seemed louder than usual. The man had left, but the feeling of unease lingered. Something in his calm demeanor didn't sit right. I tried calling Amir again. Voicemail. Again. Then the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. Who could it be now? Standing there was another young man, nervous, holding a folded letter. "For your son," he said quickly, handing it to me before quickly leaving. I unfolded the letter carefully. Its words were sharp and chilling. "He owes money. You must protect him. Don't trust anyone." A cold shiver ran down my spine. My son was in danger. The note, the strangers, the mysterious delivery, it all pointed to something far bigger than a late arrival. Fear, pure and raw, gripped me, but so did resolve. I would protect him. I had to. The letter trembled in my hands. My pulse raced. I had no idea who had sent it, and I had no clue why someone would threaten my son. The words echoed in my mind, each syllable carrying weight. He owes money. You must protect him. Don't trust anyone. I set the letter on the kitchen counter and sank into a chair, trying to piece together the events of the day. Amir was meticulous and cautious, never careless. The idea that he could be in danger didn't make sense at first, but my gut told me otherwise. I thought back to the man who delivered his bag, calm, polite, yet something about him didn't feel right. I had a feeling that he was not just a messenger, but a part of the puzzle. The evening deepened and the house was quiet except for the ticking of the old wall clock. The shadows stretched across the floor, reminding me of the growing darkness outside. I tried calling Amir again, but it went straight to voicemail. I decided to investigate the bag, piece by piece. Perhaps there was something inside the notebooks or among his belongings that could give me a clue. I opened the first notebook. Scribbles of notes, homework, and personal reflections stared back at me, but nothing alarming. Then I found a small envelope hidden under the spiral binding. My hands shook as I carefully opened it. Inside was a single photograph. It was Amir, but he was standing with a man I didn't recognize. A man with a cold, sharp look in his eyes and something in his expression that screamed danger. My breath caught. Who was this man? Why was Amir meeting him secretly? And why now, when he should have been home safely? A sudden knock at the door made me jump. My heart raced. I had been alone all evening, and now, at this late hour, someone was at the door. Slowly, cautiously, I approached, peeking through the peephole. A young man, around Amir's age, stood there. His clothes were slightly disheveled, and he looked anxious. "Are you his mother?" he asked, hurriedly. "Yes," I said, my voice shaky. "Who are you?" "My name is Rafi," he said, catching his breath. "I know this is sudden, but I have something important to tell you about Amir." I stepped back, unsure whether to invite him in. My instincts screamed caution. "Come in," I finally said, unable to resist the desperate hope that someone knew what was happening. Once inside, Rafi explained that he was a friend of Amir's from college. He asked me to follow him today. He thought he was being watched, that someone was tracking him. He didn't want to worry you, but I think you need to know what's happening. I listened intently, every word sinking into my mind like fire. Amir was in trouble. He had been cautious, yes, but he hadn't told me the full story. Fear mingled with pride. My son was brave, trying to protect me even from afar. Rafi handed me a small USB drive. "He left this for you," he said. "It has everything you need to know." I rushed to the living room, the USB drive clutched tightly in my hand. My laptop hummed to life as I inserted the drive and a series of files opened. Photos, videos, and documents filled the screen. I watched in disbelief as a hidden world of threats, debts, and secret deals unfolded. Amir had apparently stumbled upon a situation far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. There were financial records, threatening emails, and photographs of men who clearly were not friendly. As I absorbed the information, a chill ran down my spine. The people involved were organized, ruthless, and relentless. Amir's cautious behavior suddenly made perfect sense. Rafi watched me closely. "He didn't want you to know the danger until he could protect himself," he said quietly. "But now that it's out, we have to act." I felt a surge of determination. My son was in danger, yes, but I would not stand by idly. I had spent years preparing for every challenge life threw at me, and this time I would be his shield. We began planning. Every detail mattered. Every step could determine whether Amir stayed safe or fell into the hands of those who meant him harm. I had a mother's intuition, and combined with Rafi's knowledge of the situation, we formed a plan to intercept anyone who threatened him. The night outside had turned inky black, the kind that pressed against windows and doors with an almost tangible weight. Rafi and I sat at the kitchen table, huddled over the documents and files from the USB. Every image, every email,
painted a picture of danger that made my pulse quicken. "We have to be careful," Rafi said, his voice low and steady. "If they find out Amr knows, they could target him immediately." I nodded, gripping the table. "I know," I whispered, "but we can't just sit and wait. I need to know he's safe." Together we devised a plan. Rafi would try to contact Amr directly, using the secure numbers on the files, while I would stay at home, pretending nothing had happened. My role was to keep the household normal, so if anyone was watching, they wouldn't suspect I knew anything. I also prepared a small emergency kit: water, snacks, a change of clothes, and some cash. Not that I expected to use it, but my motherly instincts refused to leave anything to chance. As I worked quietly, my mind kept returning to Amr. My heart ached with worry, but pride swelled at the thought of his courage. He had faced danger without letting me know, protecting me in his way. Hours passed, each one thick with tension. My ears strained at every sound: the distant barking of a dog, the rustle of leaves, the faint hum of passing cars. And then my phone buzzed. It was Rafi. He had located Amr and had secured a safe place for him to wait. Relief and worry collided in my chest. He was safe for now, but the threat was still looming.
The next morning, I met Rafi near the edge of the city, where the streets were quiet and the sunlight filtered gently through the trees. Amir emerged from a small cafe, his eyes wide but determined. He looked exhausted but unbroken. "Mom," he said, rushing to hug me. "I'm okay, but we don't have much time. They know I'm onto them." I held him tightly, unwilling to let go. The warmth of him in my arms was grounding, a reminder that no matter what chaos awaited, I still had him. We returned home together, careful to avoid anyone who might be watching. Once inside, I noticed small details I had never paid attention to before: shadows under the curtains, a faint noise outside, the subtle click of a door latch. Danger lingered, but so did our determination. With the files and evidence in hand, we prepared to confront those who had been threatening Amir. This wasn't about revenge. It was about safety, justice, and taking control of a situation that had spiraled far beyond what any of us could have imagined. By afternoon, the confrontation had begun. Amir, Rafi, and I had strategically shared evidence with the authorities, presenting a clear case of intimidation, threats, and potential criminal activity. The truth unraveled quickly. The people who had sent the strangers, the letters, and the warnings were part of a larger network trying to manipulate Amir into something he had refused. I watched as my son faced the situation with courage. There was anger, yes, but also clarity. He didn't cower, he didn't hide. He stood tall, supported by both his friend and his mother, and faced those who had tried to control him. In the end, justice prevailed. Amir was safe. The threats were neutralized. And though the relief was profound, so was the sense of responsibility and vigilance we would carry from that day forward. That evening, we sat together in the living room, exhausted but at peace. The city outside was alive with lights, but inside, we had found a moment of calm. Amir's bag was back on the shelf, safe and intact. Rafi had left, promising to check in regularly, but the feeling of security lingered. I looked at my son, who had faced danger bravely and come out stronger. Pride, love, and relief washed over me. Life had tested us, thrown shadows and fear in our path, but we had endured. As we shared a quiet dinner, Amir finally spoke with a smile. "Mom, I didn't want you to worry, but I'm glad you're safe too. We faced it together." I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. "We did, and we'll always protect each other, no matter what comes." The night settled around us like a soft blanket. Shadows no longer held menace. They were reminders of resilience, courage, and the unbreakable bond between mother and son. For the first time in days, I felt a sense of peace. We had faced the unknown, stared down fear, and emerged stronger. And I knew, no matter what, we would continue to face life together with courage, love, and unwavering determination.